The night began like any other. Cities glowed under the stars, people watched their shows, lovers walked in parks, and children slept under quiet skies. Then every screen on Earth went black. Phones, TVs, billboards, everything turned to static. A strange hum filled the air. Then a voice came, cold and emotionless. People of Earth, you have 24 hours to kneel. After that, your planet will burn. No one knew where the voice came from, but everyone heard it. At that moment, satellites caught sight of something impossible. Dozens of massive ships entering orbit, black as shadows, blocking the stars. The world stopped breathing. Governments went silent. Fear spread faster than light. In a secret underground command center under the Atlantic Ocean, called Project Haven, a group of world leaders and scientists gathered. Screens showed live feeds of the alien fleet hovering above major cities. Each ship was the size of a mountain. The aliens called themselves the Zorth Dominion. They had conquered 9 other planets before Earth. And now, they demanded surrender. At the head of the table stood Captain Myra Cole, commander of Earth Defense Command. Her eyes were calm, but inside she was a storm. They gave us 24 hours to kneel, she said, her voice sharp. Then we'll use 23 to plan their funeral. Some looked at her with doubt, others with hope. Myra didn't care. She had no time for fear. Beside her was Dr. Elias Grant, a quiet, brilliant scientist who once worked on an abandoned experiment using alien tech fragments found on Mars years ago. The world called him crazy back then, but now everyone turned to him. I warned them this day would come, he said softly. They never listened. Myra turned to him. Then talk, Doctor. How do we fight gods? He looked at her, eyes tired but burning. They're not gods. Just conquerors who never met humans before. He pulled up holographic data, showing energy waves from the alien ships. Their shields feed on stable frequency patterns. If we can disrupt those waves, we can blind them for a few minutes. Myra leaned forward. How long will it take? 23 hours to prepare, he said. A small smile appeared on Myra's face. Then we have 23 hours to make them regret landing here. Outside, the world was falling apart. Panic riots began in major cities. People looted stores, others built shelters. Some prayed, others cursed the sky. Governments tried to stay calm, but fear ruled. The alien ships floated silently, not firing a single shot. They wanted Earth to kneel without resistance. Every hour, they broadcast the same message, surrender. Save what remains. The voice was deep, mechanical, filled with arrogance. But among the chaos, something strange started happening. Small groups of soldiers, hackers, and engineers began forming underground networks. They refused to give up. Someone called it Project Dawn. Their motto spread across social media, we don't kneel. We rise. Back in Project Haven, Myra watched the clock tick down. 23 hours left. She ordered global silence protocols, no transmissions that could reveal their position. If they want us quiet, she said, we'll make silence our weapon. The team began working. Satellites were reprogrammed. Power grids rerouted. Dr. Grant's experiment began to take shape again. It was risky. Using Earth's magnetic field as a giant weapon could destroy the planet if it failed. But it was their only chance. Myra walked through the control room, watching her people work in fear and focus. She stopped by a young engineer shaking while typing commands. First time seeing aliens, she asked. The man nodded. Don't worry, she said quietly. They bleed like us. Above them, the alien commander, Varnak, watched Earth through the mothership's crystal viewport. His metallic armor shimmered under the light of dying stars. Humans are noisy, he said to his second-in-command. They will kneel. They always do. His aide bowed. They have spirit, my lord. Varnak smiled, showing rows of silver teeth. Spirit burns too. He ordered one of the smaller ships to destroy an abandoned island city as a warning. The explosion lit up the night like a second sun. Cameras across the world captured it. Billions watched in silence. The message was clear, surrender or die. But for Captain Myra Cole, the explosion did not bring fear. It brought rage. She stared at the live feed and whispered, "They think fear will break us. They're wrong." She turned to Dr. Grant. "What's our progress?" He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Systems are aligning. If the resonance weapon works, we'll have one shot." Myra nodded. "Then we make that shot count." The clock hit 22 hours. Outside, storms began forming unnaturally as alien ships distorted the weather. Strange lights appeared in the sky. Birds fled. Oceans glowed red under the reflection of alien engines. Humanity stood on the edge of extinction, but under the ground, in that secret bunker, hope still burned. Myra gathered her team one last time before the next phase began. "They think we'll beg for mercy," she said, standing tall. "But we're not built to bow. We build, we fight, we adapt. This is our planet, and we will not kneel." As her words echoed through the chamber, the countdown clock glowed red on the wall, 22 hours. The hum of alien ships grew louder across the skies. Cities trembled under their shadow. The whole world watched, waiting for someone to lead. And in that silence, one thing became clear: humanity was not going down without a fight. The first spark of resistance had been lit, and it was only the beginning. The first hour after the ultimatum passed like a whisper before a storm. The alien ships hovered motionless in the sky, blocking sunlight and turning day into gray twilight. Humanity waited, holding its breath. Then, without warning, every satellite feed went dead. Internet, radio, television, everything fell silent. It was as if the entire planet had been muted. People stepped outside their homes and stared at the silent sky, watching the giant ships pulse with dim, cold light. The Zorth Dominion had cut Earth off from itself. This was the beginning of psychological warfare. Fear spread through the streets like wildfire, but deep underground, inside Project Haven, silence meant something else: a chance to think. Captain Myra Cole stood before a wall-sized holographic display showing Earth surrounded by a ring of enemy ships. "They've blocked our communication grid," she said, her tone calm but sharp. "They want us blind and afraid." Dr. Elias Grant adjusted his glasses and replied, "They can block our signals, but not our determination." Myra turned toward him, half smiling. "Then let's use their silence against them." The scientists and engineers around them were exhausted but focused. Every person in that room knew the world outside was falling apart. The only question was how long Earth could hold out before breaking. Grant opened a secured vault in the lab, revealing a large cylindrical device covered with cables and glowing rings. "This is what I was working on before they shut me down," he said quietly. "The resonance engine. It can turn the Earth's magnetic field into a weapon strong enough to shatter their shield frequencies." Myra's eyes narrowed. "You said it would take 23 hours to charge." "Yes," Grant replied, "and it must stay undetected during that time. If they sense what we're doing, they'll destroy us instantly." Myra folded her arms. "Then we keep it hidden. How much power do you need?" "All of it," Grant said with a weak smile. "Every power plant on Earth." While the team inside Project Haven worked, the surface world began to crumble. Governments tried to contact each other, but the alien jamming field was too strong. Rumors spread faster than truth. Some believed the end was near, others claimed salvation would come. In New York, millions gathered in the streets chanting prayers. In Tokyo, a group of engineers began transmitting coded light signals through lasers, hoping someone, somewhere, was watching. Across the world, humanity was breaking apart and coming together all at once. Back underground, Myra watched the countdown clock, 22 hours left. She ordered her communication officer, Lieutenant Harper, to activate hidden signal relays using deep-sea cables. "If we can't send messages through the sky, we'll send them under the ocean," she said. Harper nodded. "Old technology," he said with a smirk. "Exactly," Myra replied. "Too old for aliens to notice." Slowly, fragments of human communication began to reconnect. Small groups of soldiers, hackers, and civilians received coded messages from Project Haven. The resistance was growing, quietly, invisibly, under the enemy's nose. At the same time, the alien commander Varnak watched Earth from the command chamber of his mothership. His glowing eyes flickered with interest. "They are quiet," he said to his aide. "Too quiet." The aide bowed his head. Perhaps they are preparing to surrender. Varnak smiled, a cruel metallic sound echoing in his throat. Let them. It will make their destruction poetic. He turned toward a floating projection of Earth cities. Destroy one more. Something small. Something symbolic. Minutes later, an alien strike ship descended on a coastal town in southern France. Within seconds, the town turned into a crater of smoke and fire. The broadcast appeared on every human screen again, showing the burning ruins and the same cold message, 22 hours left. Kneel. Back in Project Haven, the shockwave of the attack reached Myra's team. People froze at the sight of the destruction. Dr. Grant clenched his fists, his eyes wet. They think fear will make us surrender, he said softly. Myra stepped closer to the screen and whispered, they think wrong. She turned to her officers. Activate Phase 2. Link every available power grid. I don't care if we black out every city. Get me the power. Engineers rushed to terminals, typing rapidly. Generators roared to life underground. Across continents, lights began to flicker as energy was rerouted. In the silence above, the aliens watched but didn't understand what humans were doing. Hours passed. 21. 20. 19. The resonance engine began to hum, a low vibration that shook the walls. Dr. Grant monitored the readings. It's working, he said. But we need synchronization across all regions. Myra leaned over his shoulder. We'll get it. She opened a private channel to global resistance leaders using encrypted undersea lines. This is Captain Myra Cole, she said. If you can hear me, Earth still fights. Connect your grids, follow the signal, and hold the line. We will not kneel. The message echoed in secret rooms across the world. People began to move again, electricians, coders, soldiers, all working in silence for a single goal. Above the planet, the Zorth fleet noticed sudden energy fluctuations. Unusual power spikes detected across the surface, an alien officer reported. Varnak frowned. Explain. Possibly defensive systems activating. Varnak waved his hand dismissively. Let them try. It will change nothing. But deep down, something about the readings disturbed him. Humans were not panicking as expected. They were planning. Back on Earth, Myra and Grant shared a brief moment of quiet. The bunker lights flickered from power surges. You ever think we'd be here? Myra asked. Grant laughed weakly. I always thought humanity would destroy itself before aliens got the chance. Maybe that's why they underestimated us, Myra said. They don't understand that chaos is our strength. The clock hit 18 hours. The world above was silent, but underground, life was buzzing. People were uniting, working, believing again. For the first time since the ultimatum, hope felt real. Myra looked up at the screen showing the countdown. 18 hours left, she whispered. Let's make every second count. The hum of the resonance engine grew louder, vibrating through the floor. Outside, the alien ships continued to float like dark moons, unaware that the silent planet below was turning its fear into fire. The world had entered its darkest night, yet within that darkness, something powerful began to awaken. As the alien ships loomed quietly in the skies, humanity started to move in secret. Across broken cities and silent mountains, people began to whisper a new word, resistance. Project Haven's hidden network reached further than even Captain Myra Cole expected. Engineers in India, hackers in Brazil, miners in Australia, and pilots scattered across abandoned airfields all received fragments of one coded message, we will not kneel. For the first time since the ultimatum, the world began to unite under one pulse, one voice, one heartbeat that refused to die. Inside Project Haven, the atmosphere had changed. Fear had turned into purpose. Every person worked like a cog in a massive machine. The resonance weapon's energy readings glowed brighter, its hum echoing through the metal halls. Dr. Elias Grant was running on caffeine and willpower, his trembling hands typing faster than his mind could think. If we can stabilize the magnetic channels, he muttered, we might extend the pulse's reach across the entire planet. Myra walked beside him, her eyes fixed on the countdown clock, 17 hours left. Do it, she said. Whatever it takes. She turned to her communication officer. Any updates from our outer cells? Harper shook his head. The jamming field is getting stronger, but our undersea relays are still holding. Some signals are coming through. Patch them in, Myra ordered. Static filled the room, then a faint voice broke through. It was Commander Ortiz from the South American Defense Line. We've gathered survivors from the coast. Engineers are rebuilding energy relays with old fusion batteries. We'll connect to your network within the hour. Myra nodded with relief. Copy that. Stay hidden. If they spot you, pull out immediately. We're not pulling out, Captain, Ortiz replied, his voice full of fire. If we die standing. The line went dead, but everyone in the room felt the same surge of courage. Humanity was no longer running, it was rising. Above Earth, the alien commander Varnak watched with growing frustration. His sensors picked up unusual activity across the surface, small bursts of energy, flickering power grids, and signals buried under the noise. They're resisting, his second-in-command said. Primitive attempts at coordination. Varnak's voice was like grinding metal. Let them resist. When the time comes, we will burn their courage with their cities. Yet despite his arrogance, something about the human's silence bothered him. It was not the silence of surrender, but the silence of preparation. Back on the ground, small groups were taking action. In the ruins of London, a group of ex-soldiers scavenged alien debris from a crashed scout drone. A young hacker named Leo managed to interface the fragments with human tech, creating a communication booster. If I can align the signal frequency, we can bounce messages through their own network, he said. You can't be serious, one soldier replied. Leo smiled. They gave us 24 hours. I'm not wasting any. Within minutes, Leo's modified signal reached Project Haven, a whisper in the static, London cell online. Myra's eyes widened. They're learning fast, she said to Grant. That's what humans do best, he replied. We adapt. 17 turned to 16. The hours bled away like sand through fingers. Dr. Grant's resonance engine continued to grow in power, the magnetic fields pulsating like a heartbeat. The deeper it charged, the more unstable it became. Sparks shot from cables, systems overheated, but no one stopped. Myra's voice cut through the chaos. Keep it stable. I want this thing ready before we hit hour 23. Engineers scrambled, shouting commands over the hum of machinery. Every second mattered. Every decision could decide the fate of billions. Meanwhile, in a dark desert in Nevada, an old military base came back to life. A group of pilots rolled out ancient fighter jets from hangars covered in dust. They won't even notice us down there, said Colonel Mason, strapping himself into a cockpit. Their sensors are tuned for modern tech. These relics are ghosts. His wingman grinned. Ghosts are good. Ghosts can fight. The jets roared into the sky, disappearing into the clouds, carrying humanity's first air patrol in a world invaded by giants. Inside Project Haven, Dr. Grant stared at his data. Something's off, he whispered. Myra looked over his shoulder. What is it? Their energy signature, he said, zooming in on a waveform. It's not stable. It fluctuates every few minutes, like they're adapting to something. Myra frowned. To us. Grant nodded slowly. They're learning, too. Myra clenched her fists. Then we have to move faster. They expect us to be scared. Let's make them scared instead. As the clock hit 15 hours, the Resistance made its first coordinated move. Using the old undersea cables, signals bounced across continents, connecting hidden cells everywhere. A new network was born, Operation Dawnlight. Simple, invisible, and unbreakable. Civilians began to feed data, engineers shared power routes, and scientists linked frequencies to the resonance weapon. The aliens didn't even notice. Humanity had built an invisible web under their feet. But the Zorth Dominion was not entirely blind. Commander Varnak received a strange report from his scout ships. Our drones are being intercepted by unknown interference, the officer said. We are losing contact with units near Earth's magnetic poles. Varnak's eyes narrowed. They are hiding something. Increase the jamming field. Send more drones. The ships shifted in orbit, covering the sky like a second night. Down below, the shadows grew darker, but Myra didn't flinch. She stood before her team, her voice calm yet fierce. "They're tightening the net," she said. "Good. That means they're afraid." Dr. Grant looked up. "Afraid? Of us?" Myra smiled. "They should be." The hum of the resonance engine filled the room again, deeper and louder this time, echoing through the earth like a heartbeat. "We've been quiet long enough," Myra said. "It's time to show them what silence can do." And somewhere far above, in the cold emptiness of orbit, the alien commander looked down at Earth, still silent, still defiant, and for the first time, he felt something he didn't understand. Doubt. As the countdown slipped below 15 hours, the world below continued to move in whispers and shadows. Project Haven had become the silent heart of humanity's final plan, but not everyone believed in it. Fear was spreading like a virus, and in that fear, doubt was born. While Captain Myra Cole pushed her exhausted team to the limit, a quiet betrayal was already unfolding inside their walls. In a dim corridor of the underground base, Senator Adrian Locke walked nervously, his face pale under the flickering lights. He had been part of the Global Defense Council, one of the few politicians allowed access to Project Haven's location. To the public, he was a symbol of unity, but inside, he was terrified. He had seen the alien power firsthand, watched cities erased in seconds, and he had lost faith in humanity's chances. "We can't win this," he whispered to himself. "We're just ants under their feet." As he reached a secure room, he activated a hidden communicator, one not connected to the human network. It was alien tech, smuggled in through a covert exchange. "This is Adrian Locke," he said, his voice trembling. "I have information you'll want." Miles above, in the mothership, Commander Varnak turned his attention to the incoming signal. "Identify yourself," he ordered. The translator processed Locke's voice, and the senator's words appeared as glowing symbols in front of him. "I'm offering you the location of the human resistance base," Locke said. "In exchange, I want safe passage for me and my family." Varnak's sharp grin spread across his face. "You wish to betray your species?" "I wish to survive," Locke replied, his voice breaking. Varnak leaned closer to the hologram. "Transmit the coordinates." Locke hesitated, sweat dripping from his temple. "Promise me safety first." Varnak chuckled, a deep metallic sound. "Of course, human. You have my word." Back in Project Haven, Captain Myra Cole stood in the main control room, unaware of the dagger hanging over her head. Dr. Grant was recalibrating the resonance engine, his eyes fixed on fluctuating readings. "Power levels stable for now," he said. "But one more surge could overload the entire core." Myra nodded. "We'll risk it. We don't get a second chance." The team was running on nothing but caffeine and adrenaline, every heartbeat echoing with tension. They had 14 hours left, and the enemy's patience was running out. Then, without warning, the alarms blared through the base. Red lights flashed, and a voice shouted from the security station. "Incoming signal breach. They found us." Myra's blood turned cold. "How?" she barked. Harper's fingers flew across the console. "They have our exact coordinates, Captain. This isn't random." Myra's eyes narrowed. "Someone sold us out." Before she could say another word, the ground shook violently. The walls trembled as explosions roared above them. Dust rained down from the ceiling. "Direct hit," Harper yelled. "Multiple impacts from orbit." Myra grabbed the intercom. "All personnel, evacuate to secondary tunnels. Move, now." The base erupted into chaos as soldiers and scientists scrambled for cover. Dr. Grant clutched his data drives and shouted over the noise. "We can't lose the engine. It's our only hope." Myra ran toward him, shielding her face from falling debris. "Grab what you can. Leave everything else." Another explosion rocked the bunker, sending shockwaves through the corridors. The lights flickered, then died. Emergency lights turned the halls red. Outside, in the dark sky, the alien ships fired precision plasma beams, tearing through the ocean and splitting the ground. The surface above Project Haven boiled with fire. Varnak watched from orbit, his eyes gleaming. "The resistance dies tonight," he said coldly. But below the chaos, humanity refused to break. Myra's team raced through collapsing tunnels, carrying whatever parts of the resonance engine they could save. "Keep moving," Myra shouted. "We can't stop." After what felt like hours, they reached an escape hatch leading to a submarine dock hidden beneath the ocean shelf. Only half the team made it out alive. Myra collapsed onto the steel floor, coughing, her uniform covered in ash. Dr. Grant sat beside her, clutching the damaged core. "We lost everything," he said bitterly. "The lab, the servers, the data, gone." Myra looked at the burning sea through the small viewing window. "Not everything," she said quietly. "We're still alive. That means we fight." In orbit, Varnak received confirmation from his drones. "The human base is destroyed," an officer reported. "No life signs detected." Varnak leaned back in satisfaction. "Prepare the final wave. When the countdown ends, erase the planet." Back underwater, Myra stood again, her eyes full of fire. "They think we're dead," she said. "Good. That gives us an advantage." Dr. Grant frowned. "Advantage? We've lost the base." Myra smiled faintly. "We have the core. That's all that matters." She turned toward Harper, who was checking the submarine systems. "Set a course for the lunar station. Project Haven may be gone, but Project Dawnlight still has backups there." Harper nodded. "It's a long shot." "It's the only shot," Myra said. As the submarine disappeared into the dark depths, far above them the burning remains of Project Haven sank into the sea. The betrayal had nearly ended everything, but it also reignited something deeper, a fury that could not be contained. Dr. Grant stared at the cracked resonance engine and whispered, "They'll pay for this." Myra looked out into the black ocean and said, "No. They'll learn what happens when you try to break humans." Meanwhile, Senator Locke sat alone in a secure bunker provided by the aliens, watching the destruction on a monitor. He smiled weakly, thinking he was safe. Then the transmission flickered, and Varnak's face appeared. "You have served your purpose," the alien said coldly. "Now join your species." Locke's eyes widened in horror. "Wait, no." But before he could speak again, a beam of light consumed the bunker. The screen went dark. At that same moment, Myra's submarine broke through the deep ocean currents, heading toward the lightless horizon. The earth above was burning, but below the waves, humanity still breathed. The betrayal had failed. Hope had not died, it had simply gone deeper, quieter, and stronger. The war was far from over. It was only beginning. The submarine glided silently through the cold depths of the Atlantic, its lights flickering in the dark water. The crew was exhausted, bruised, and grieving, but no one spoke of giving up. Above them, Earth burned quietly under the watch of the alien fleet. Entire cities had gone dark, and the world's skies were filled with drifting shadows of ships too large for imagination. Humanity seemed broken, yet deep below the waves, the spark of resistance was still alive. Captain Myra Cole stood at the front observation window, watching faint beams of red light from orbit pierce through the water. Her reflection looked tired, but her eyes held the same fire as before. "They think it's over," she said softly. "But it's just beginning." Dr. Elias Grant sat nearby, hunched over the damaged resonance engine core, trying to repair it using makeshift tools. Sparks flew from exposed wires as he worked. "We lost too much data in the attack," he muttered. "I can rebuild part of the system, but not all. The field equations, the synchronization patterns, they're gone." Myra turned to him. "Then rewrite them," she said firmly. Grant looked up, exhausted. "You don't just rewrite physics in a submarine, Captain." Myra stepped closer and put a hand on his shoulder. "You've done the impossible before. Do it again." The submarine's control room was tense and silent. Lieutenant Harper monitored the sonar, scanning for alien drones. "No pursuit so far," he reported. "Either they think we're dead or they don't care." Myra smirked. "Let's hope for the first one." She looked at the digital countdown on the wall, 13 hours left. The time the aliens had given Earth was still ticking. They had destroyed Project Haven, but the clock hadn't stopped. Humanity still had 13 hours to prove it wouldn't kneel. Several hours later, the submarine surfaced in a frozen northern sea under the cover of a storm. Ice cracked around them as they rose through the dark waters. On the horizon, a faint metal structure shimmered beneath the moonlight, the remains of an old lunar relay launch station, long abandoned after the early space wars. This was Project Dawnlight's secondary hub, one of the last places on Earth untouched by alien fire. Myra's voice cut through the silence. "Welcome to our new home." The crew began unloading what little they had left, the damaged resonance core, power cells, and a few working terminals. "We're going to need every piece of tech we can find," Myra said. "We'll rebuild here." Inside the frozen facility, the walls creaked, covered in frost and rust, but the systems still hummed faintly when Dr. Grant powered them up. "I can't believe this place still works," Harper said. "It was shut down decades ago." Grant smiled faintly. "Good thing aliens don't waste time scanning our graveyards." He reconnected the resonance core and checked the readings. "If we can reroute enough power through the station's fusion battery, we can give the weapon a second chance." Myra looked around. "Then we do it." As the team worked, news began to flow in through the reactivated undersea relays. The resistance had survived in fragments, cells from different countries sending encrypted messages of survival. Japan, Russia, Egypt, Brazil, small groups all hiding, waiting, and ready to fight. Myra read the messages on a flickering screen. "They're still out there," she whispered. "They didn't kneel." For the first time in hours, she smiled. She turned to Grant. "Can you boost the power through the global grids again?" Grant nodded slowly. "It'll take time. Maybe 4 hours to link the nodes. But once we start, the aliens will notice." "Then we distract them," Myra said. "If they want us to kneel, let's give them a performance." The crew began to set the trap. Myra ordered Harper to prepare a false surrender signal, one that would look authentic enough to fool even alien scanners. They used broken transmission fragments from Project Haven and mixed them with real distress codes. The message was simple: Earth accepts surrender. Humanity kneels. Harper hesitated. "Captain, you really want to send this?" Myra's eyes were cold. "Yes. Because when they come to celebrate, we'll show them what humans do in the 23rd hour." 5 hours later, the false signal was transmitted. It echoed across every frequency the aliens monitored. Above the planet, Commander Varnak received it instantly. "They've surrendered," his aide announced. Varnak rose from his throne-like chair, metallic armor glinting. "So they finally accept their fate." He ordered his fleet to descend toward Earth to begin the integration ceremony, a cruel term for extermination under disguise of peace. "Send one ship to the source of the signal," he said. "Bring their leaders to me." Back in the frozen station, Myra and her team watched the alien movement on radar. Dozens of massive ships were changing formation. "They took the bait," Harper said, unable to hide his grin. "Good," Myra replied. "Let's make this count." Dr. Grant checked the resonance core's stability. "We're almost ready," he said. "But if we fire too early, the weapon might overload and destroy half the planet." Myra looked him dead in the eye. "Then we time it perfectly. No mistakes." Meanwhile, across the world, hidden resistance cells prepared for the signal. Old satellites were reactivated, underground reactors surged with power, and thousands of people tuned their systems to one unified frequency. The entire planet was turning into a single weapon. Every city, every hidden base, every generator was part of the plan. Humanity had become one machine with one goal: to strike back at the gods that threatened them. In orbit, Varnak's flagship hovered directly above the ICC. "Prepare for visual link," he ordered. A projection of Earth's surface appeared in front of him, showing the frozen station. "Bring them out," he commanded. The aliens expected kneeling humans, but instead, Myra Cole stood in the storm, facing the sky, wind whipping her coat. Her voice came through the transmission. "We're ready, Commander." Varnak leaned forward, amused. "You've made the right choice, Captain." Myra smirked. "You think so?" Behind her, the resonance core began to glow, its rings spinning faster. "We don't kneel," Myra said. "We rise." Varnak's smile faded. "What have you done?" he growled. Myra looked up at the storming sky and whispered, Wait for hour 23. The screen went dark. Inside the station, alarms flared as the resonance core reached critical power. Dr. Grant's voice was steady but urgent. The field is charging. Once it hits maximum, there's no turning back. Myra stood tall. Then we don't turn back. The countdown reached 11 hours. Above, the alien ships adjusted their weapons, preparing to strike. But below, the frozen earth hummed with hidden power, every grid alive, every human united. The plan within the plan was set. The trap was ready. Humanity had never been more dangerous, and the Zorth Dominion had never been closer to fear. The world held its breath as the sky turned crimson with alien fire. Massive warships moved into position over every major continent, their shadows swallowing the light from the sun. Oceans reflected their glow, and entire cities stood still, waiting for either salvation or the end. Inside the frozen station, deep in the northern sea, Captain Myra Cole watched the sensors come alive. The radar was filled with red blips, each one a ship capable of wiping out a country. "They're closing in," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice tight. Myra's eyes stayed on the screen. "Good," she replied. "Let them come closer." Dr. Elias Grant worked furiously at the resonance core, his hands trembling but steady enough to reroute power. Sparks flew, and the hum of the machine grew deeper, heavier. "The frequency is almost stable," he said. "We have minutes, maybe less." Myra nodded. "Then make those minutes count." Outside, the storm raged harder. Waves slammed against the frozen facility as winds howled across the sea. The sound mixed with the low rumble of approaching engines from above. A beam of alien light cut through the clouds, striking the ice just a few hundred meters from the station. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground, knocking equipment over and making the walls tremble. "They're scanning the surface," Harper said, adjusting the console. "They'll find us in less than 5 minutes." Myra took a deep breath. "Then that's all the time we need." Dr. Grant looked at her nervously. "You understand what this could do, right? If we're even slightly off, the pulse could kill everything, including us." Myra turned to him with a faint smile. "If it saves Earth, I'll take that risk." Grant swallowed hard and went back to his console. "Then I hope physics is on our side today." The crew moved quickly, each person performing their task without hesitation. They had lost friends, cities, even hope, but now, with the clock almost at zero, they had something else: resolve. Humanity had been backed into a corner, but that's where it always fought best. Above, Commander Varnak stood in his command deck, watching Earth with satisfaction. "Prepare the final sequence," he ordered. His lieutenant nodded and began inputting commands into the ship's glowing console. "Target their major energy sources," Varnak continued. "Erase their last spark." As his fleet descended, a faint transmission appeared on his screen. It was Captain Myra's voice. "Commander Varnak," she said calmly, "you should have left us alone." Varnak smirked. "Defiance until the end. You humans are amusing." Myra's reply came sharp. "Not defiance. Payback." At that moment, the resonance core in the frozen station reached full synchronization. The lights flickered blue, then white, filling the room with a blinding glow. "It's ready," Dr. Grant shouted. "The field is locked." Myra turned to Harper. "Broadcast the signal. Every resistance node, every surviving grid. Now." Harper slammed the switch, and across the planet, hidden transmitters came alive. From abandoned bunkers in Africa to submarines beneath the Pacific, power surged through old cables and forgotten satellites. The entire world became a conductor for the resonance field. Humanity's final message was traveling faster than light itself. Varnak's sensors began to spike. "What is this energy surge?" he demanded. His lieutenant stared at the readings. "It's global, sir. Every human system is transmitting on the same frequency." "Block it," Varnak roared. "Deactivate their networks." But it was too late. The pulse had already begun. The sky shimmered with strange light, waves of blue and gold rolling through the atmosphere. The alien ship's shields began to flicker. The resonance field wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense, it was a disruption wave tuned to the energy signature of the invaders. It tore through their systems like fire through dry leaves. Down in the frozen station, the power surged so high that the walls shook violently. "We're overloading," Grant yelled. "If we don't shut it down, we'll go with them." Myra's eyes never left the console. "Then we go with them," she said. "But Earth lives." Harper looked at her, fear and admiration mixing in his voice. "Captain, it's been an honor." Myra smiled faintly. "Let's finish it." The ground trembled as the resonance core exploded in light. The pulse expanded outward, moving faster than sound, faster than thought. It tore through the sea, then the sky, reaching every ship that hovered above the planet. In orbit, Varnak's command ship was hit first. The alien screens turned to static, and the crew screamed as their systems fried. Varnak tried to stand, his armor sparking, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he gasped. "Primitive creatures cannot." His words were cut short as the light consumed him. One by one, the alien warships fell silent, their glowing engines flickering out. Some exploded in the sky, others crashed into the oceans below. Across the world, people looked up to see fire raining down, but this time, it wasn't humanity that was burning. Hours passed before the light faded. The storm subsided, and the world was eerily quiet. The resonance field had vanished, and so had most of the alien fleet. In the frozen station, smoke filled the corridors. Sparks fell from the ceiling, and the hum of machinery was gone. Harper lay unconscious beside a broken console. Dr. Grant, injured but alive, crawled toward the remains of the resonance core. Its glow was gone, replaced by faint embers. He called out weakly, "Captain." From the far side of the room, Myra Cole stood, covered in ash and blood, staring at the sky through a cracked window. Above them, for the first time in days, stars shone freely without alien shadows. Grant dragged himself to her side. "It worked," he whispered. Myra didn't look away from the stars. "Yes," she said softly. "But it's not over yet." Grant frowned. "What do you mean?" Myra pointed toward the horizon, where faint streaks of red still burned in the atmosphere. "Some of them escaped. And they'll be back." Grant sighed. "Then we rebuild." Myra turned to him with a tired but determined smile. "Exactly. Humanity just showed the universe we don't kneel. Next time, they'll remember that." Outside, the sea began to calm. Broken pieces of alien metal floated across the ice, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The world had survived R-23, but a new dawn was coming, one built from ashes, defiance, and the unbroken spirit of mankind. The countdown was over, but the story of Earth was far from finished. The world was silent. The sky, once filled with fire and death, was now painted in dull shades of gray. The ocean waves carried pieces of alien metal, broken and lifeless, drifting aimlessly across the cold surface. Humanity had survived, but the victory felt hollow. Cities were gone, nations shattered, and billions lost. The resonance pulse had saved Earth but left deep scars that would take generations to heal. In the frozen northern sea, the ruins of the resistance station still stood, half buried under ice and debris. Smoke curled from broken vents as the sun rose weakly through the clouds. Inside, Captain Myra Cole sat beside the shattered remains of the resonance core. The once glowing machine was now dark, silent, and dead. Myra stared at it for a long time, her expression unreadable. The war had ended, but peace still felt far away. Dr. Elias Grant walked in, limping slightly, his hands bandaged and covered in burns. He set down a small piece of alien metal on the table beside her. "The scans confirm it," he said quietly. "They're gone. Their ships, their power cores, everything, shut down completely. Whatever's left can't hurt us anymore." Myra didn't respond right away. She kept her eyes on the broken core. "And how many of us are left?" she asked finally. Grant hesitated. "Too few," he admitted. "But more than none. Resistance cells are reporting in from across the globe. Some survived in bunkers, others in deep space outposts. Humanity's scattered, but alive." Myra nodded slowly. "Alive," she repeated. "That's something." Lieutenant Harper entered the room next, holding a damaged comms tablet. His uniform was torn, and his face bore a long scar from the last battle. "Captain, "We've picked up a transmission," he said. Myra stood instantly. "From where?" Harper hesitated. "It's not from Earth." Myra frowned. "Play it." Harper placed the device on the console, and a faint, distorted signal filled the room. Static crackled before a strange, rhythmic pulse echoed through the speakers. It wasn't a human voice, but it wasn't alien language either. Grant leaned forward, listening carefully. "That's a distress beacon," he said. "But it's encoded with Earth's frequency signatures." Myra's eyes narrowed. "You're saying that's ours?" Grant nodded. "Or someone trying to sound like us." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then Myra turned to Harper. "Trace the signal." Harper tapped quickly on the screen. "It's coming from lunar orbit," he said, eyes widening. "There's something up there, an object, metallic, but not destroyed." Myra's heart began to pound. "One of the alien ships?" Grant shook his head. "No. The energy reading doesn't match theirs. It's something new." Myra straightened, her fatigue replaced by purpose. "Get the sub ready," she ordered. "We're going to the launch bay. If there's anything left up there, we need to know what it is." An hour later, the small resistance vessel Aurora lifted off from the frozen facility, leaving behind the ruins of their last battle. The sea glistened beneath them as they rose through the clouds, heading toward space. The crew was small, just Myra, Grant, and Harper, but they carried the weight of the entire planet. As the Earth grew smaller below, Myra couldn't help but stare at it. "We fought for that," she murmured. "Every inch of it." Grant nodded. "And now we have to protect it." The Aurora broke through the atmosphere, its engines straining but holding steady. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, calm and beautiful. But among them, a single dark shape floated, a wrecked alien dreadnought, massive even in its destruction. "There," Harper said, pointing. "That's the source of the signal." The ship was torn in half, its hull glowing faintly with red energy. Myra frowned. "If that's a distress signal, it's not human." Grant adjusted his scanner. "Wait, there's something else. Deep inside the wreckage, there's movement." As they approached, their floodlights illuminated the torn metal corridors of the alien vessel. Bodies of the invaders drifted through the air, frozen in death. The ship was a graveyard, silent except for the faint echo of the distress pulse. Myra activated her comm. "Grant, what's your read?" "The signal's being transmitted from the command deck," he replied. "But it's been modified. I think someone's using alien tech to send it." Myra's grip on the controls tightened. "Whoever it is, we're finding them." The Aurora latched onto the side of the dreadnought, and the crew entered through a cracked maintenance hatch. Inside, the air was thin and cold, the walls covered with strange alien script that glowed faintly as they passed. As they moved deeper, the pulse grew louder, echoing through the empty halls like a heartbeat. Harper aimed his rifle ahead, nerves showing in his eyes. "I don't like this, Captain. It feels like a trap." Myra kept moving forward. "If it is, we'll deal with it." They reached the command deck, a massive chamber filled with shattered consoles and floating debris. In the center of the room, a single pod glowed blue, humming with energy. Grant stepped forward, scanning it. This is human tech," he said in disbelief. "Modified, but definitely built by us." Myra approached slowly. "How? We never had the resources to build something like this." Before anyone could respond, the pod opened with a hiss. Inside lay a man in a tattered resistance uniform, breathing weakly. His eyes flickered open, and when he spoke, his voice was raspy but clear. "Captain Cole." Myra froze. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "Lieutenant Reeves, Project Dawnlight. We were the backup team." Grant's eyes widened. "Impossible. Dawnlight was destroyed." Reeves coughed, shaking his head. "Not all of it. We were sent to monitor the aliens' command frequencies. But something went wrong. They captured us, experimented," his voice faltered. "I escaped when the pulse hit. But they left something behind." Myra knelt beside him. "What did they leave?" Reeves looked at her with haunted eyes. "A signal. A call for reinforcements. They're coming back. The room went silent. Grant's face turned pale. How long? Reeves exhaled slowly. Weeks, maybe days. The message is already out there. Myra stood, her jaw tightening. Then we don't have time to rest. She turned to Harper. Get the Aurora ready. We're leaving. Harper hesitated. Where are we going? Myra's gaze hardened. To stop that signal. She looked out the cracked window of the alien ship, where Earth glowed softly below. They gave us 24 hours once, she said quietly. Next time, we'll be ready in one. The engines of the Aurora roared to life, and the ship turned toward the stars, heading into the unknown. Humanity had survived the first war, but the second was already on its way. The Aurora soared through the emptiness of space, its engines burning blue against the sea of stars. Inside the small ship, silence filled the air except for the low hum of the reactor. Captain Myra Cole sat in the command chair, her eyes fixed on the navigation screen. The signal left behind by the aliens pulsed steadily, a dark rhythm echoing across the void. It wasn't just a message, it was a beacon. Somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, something had heard it. How long before it reaches them? Myra asked. Dr. Elias Grant, sitting at the console beside her, checked his readings. If my calculations are right, the signal's already past the Kuiper belt. If they have ships waiting out there, they'll get it soon. Myra's jaw tightened. Then we find a way to stop it before they arrive. Lieutenant Harper adjusted the controls, scanning the nearby sectors. Captain, I might have found something. There's a relay satellite ahead, one of ours, but it's been heavily modified. That's where the signal's bouncing from. Myra leaned forward. Modified by who? Harper hesitated. The system's not human, but it's using human technology. Could be the aliens reproposed it before the pulse hit. Myra stood. Then that's our first target. The ship angled toward the dark object floating ahead, a massive satellite surrounded by debris. Its surface glowed faintly red, pulsing like a heartbeat in sync with the beacon's rhythm. As they approached, Grant frowned. I'm detecting residual energy, resonance energy. The same kind we used in the pulse. Myra raised an eyebrow. You mean the aliens are using our weapon tech? Grant nodded grimly. Looks like they adapted it before we fired. They learned from us. Myra's voice hardened. Then we finish what we started. The Aurora locked onto the satellite and began transmitting override codes. Sparks flickered across the consoles. It's fighting back, Harper said, his fingers flying over the controls. Something's controlling it remotely. Can you shut it down? Myra asked. Maybe, Harper said, sweat forming on his forehead. But if I fail, it could blow this whole ship apart. Myra didn't hesitate. Do it. The ship shook as the signal pulsed stronger. The lights flickered, alarms blaring. It's trying to overload our systems. Grant shouted. Myra grabbed the manual override lever and slammed it down. Harper, now. Harper entered the final command, and for a moment, the entire ship went dark. Then, with a deafening silence, the red light outside faded. The signal was gone. The crew sat in the dark, breathing heavily. Slowly, the lights came back online. Signal terminated, Harper said, exhausted. We did it. Myra didn't smile. For now, she said quietly. Grant looked uneasy. The signal's dead, but the energy reading didn't disappear, it shifted. Myra turned sharply. Shifted where? Grant pointed at the scanner. Somewhere deeper in space. The pulse bounced off the relay before we killed it. The message might still have reached something out there. Myra's eyes narrowed. Then we follow it. Harper frowned. Captain, we barely have fuel. If we go any further, we may not have enough to get back. Myra glanced out the window at the distant stars. If that signal brings them back, there won't be anything left to go back to. Hours later, the Aurora drifted into uncharted territory. The stars here were fewer, colder, and the darkness seemed heavier. The sensors detected strange anomalies, fluctuations in space itself, like invisible waves moving through the void. This doesn't look natural, Grant said, scanning the data. These readings, it's almost like a gate or a tear. Myra stared ahead. A portal. Harper's eyes widened. You think they used this to come here? Grant nodded. Yes. The Zorth Dominion didn't just travel through space, they tore holes in it. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. If the signal reached the other side, Myra said slowly, they'll send reinforcements through this. She paused, then added, we can't let that happen. The ship drifted closer to the distortion. It shimmered faintly, a rippling vortex of light and darkness twisting in the distance. If we overload our resonance generator, Grant said cautiously, we might be able to collapse it. But the energy release would destroy us. Myra gave him a sharp look. You said might. That means it could work. Grant sighed. Or it could vaporize us instantly. We've faced worse odds, Myra replied. Prepare the overload sequence. Harper stared at her. Captain, if we do this, we're not coming back. Myra smiled faintly. We were never supposed to come back. We were supposed to make sure humanity lives. The crew began the sequence. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit as the generator reached critical charge. The hum of the ship deepened into a roar. Outside, the vortex began to react, glowing brighter, its edges writhing like a living thing. It's unstable, Grant shouted. If we hit it now, we might collapse the portal completely. Myra stood tall, eyes fixed on the swirling darkness. Do it. Harper's hands trembled as he pressed the final command. A blinding beam of blue energy shot from the aurora, piercing the vortex. The space around them twisted violently, alarms screamed, and the ship shook as though the universe itself was tearing apart. Hold it steady. Myra yelled. The vortex pulsed once, twice, and then imploded, folding into itself with a deafening silence. The stars returned, calm and motionless. The readings on the screens went flat. It's gone, Grant said, disbelief in his voice. We closed it. Myra let out a slow breath. Then it's done. The ship's power flickered, its systems struggling to stay alive. Engines are failing, Harper said quietly. We don't have enough fuel to reach orbit. Myra looked at the blue planet in the distance, Earth, glowing faintly like a jewel against the dark. At least we'll die knowing we kept it safe. The aurora drifted silently, its lights dimming. Grant leaned back in his chair, exhausted. Do you think they'll ever know what we did? Myra smiled faintly. They'll know. Not our names, maybe, but they'll know someone stood up. Harper chuckled weakly. The universe tried to make us kneel. We laughed instead. Myra looked at the stars one last time. That's humanity for you. As the ship floated into the endless dark, Earth began to rise slowly in the distance. The damage from the war would take years to heal, but for the first time, the planet was truly free. Across the surface, survivors rebuilt cities, planted crops, and told stories of the heroes who refused to bow. The name Aurora became legend, a ship that vanished to protect the world. Years later, a faint transmission reached the outer colonies. It was old, distorted, and nearly lost to time. But the words were clear: if they ever return, remember who you are. We don't kneel. Humanity listened, and for the first time since the war, the stars no longer seemed so far away.